Welcome to Incognito Islamic Productions.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. My name is Kenny Bomer. I'm the author of the book Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda. As a student of comparative religions, I have studied both Islam and Christianity extensively, and though I don't claim to be a scholar or historian, I pray that with the help of Allah, blessed and exalted is He, I can convey the truth about both religions. It is also my intention to address the slanderous claims of atheists and known Islamophobes from a reasonable and logical perspective, while distinguishing false and erroneous information from that which is factual regarding the truth and beauty of Islam. My intention is to demonstrate why it is that Islam is the fastest growing religion in every country throughout the world. The Pew Research Center says, and I quote, "Islam will nearly equal Christianity in its number of followers by 2050, before eclipsing it around the year 2070 if current trends continue." End of quote. On average, there have been 30,000 new reverts to Islam each year in the United States, most of whom are women, since the infamous 9/11 attacks carried out by those who have been wrongly labeled as Muslims. This rise in followers can be associated with the fact that before the 9/11 attacks, most people had very little knowledge about Islam and seldom heard the word mentioned. But the impact of 9/11 has caused a curiosity to arise in people for various reasons, with one of those being the fallacious desire to understand why and how a religion can cause people to commit murder in the name of that religion. Those who can set aside their fears and prejudices in order to be earnest seekers of the truth will come to the realization that there is nothing in Islam that influences people to commit acts of terrorism or any other type of oppression. This is not to imply that some so-called Muslims never commit acts of terrorism. The fact is, there are people in the world who are willing to use anything that they can in order to achieve and justify their actions in fulfilling their agendas. That includes the use of religion. But nothing in Islam, the Quran, or Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says anything about killing people unjustly or for any other reason other than self-defense or the defense of others. But people have been led to believe differently due to the constant attacks on Islam through various forms of propaganda. The ability to see through the smokescreen of the never-relenting campaign of fear is crucial. One must be capable of understanding that propaganda and the dissemination of false information has and always will be utilized to sway the masses. This is done in order to achieve the desired goals of those in power that seem to be determined to normalize bigotry and hatred, as xenophobia combines with Islamophobia, causing division amongst various groups in society. Once again, my name is Kenny Bomer. I am the author of the book Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda. If you would like a copy of the book, you can go to Amazon and look up Kenny Bomer or look up Consider Islam, or you can go directly to my website, kennybomer.com. Once again, I thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon everyone who's listening. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon everyone who's watching and listening. Once again, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I do bear witness there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His final servant and the seal of all prophets. Any good that comes from this program is only from Allah. Any mistakes that are made are my own and the mistakes of the panelists, and I don't mean to speak for them. We have some very knowledgeable brothers that come on, but alhamdulillah, everyone makes mistakes sometimes. So any good comes directly from Allah. He guides us to all good and all truth. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did say that if one person is guided through you, it's better than the universe and all that it contains. And so obviously we as Muslims are obligated. We have a great opportunity to share the truth and beauty of Islam. And that's the sole purpose of this platform, to discuss Islam and issues which affect us all. Obviously we're in a very interesting period of history in the world with the coronavirus, and it's affected literally everyone on the planet, alhamdulillah, overnight, instantly. Some people have passed away, some people are sick. Some people have loved ones that are sick. People have been affected financially, and some people have lost homes and lost their property. And it's all a test. Allah tells us in the Quran, "Be sure we'll test you with something of fear and hunger, and the loss of lives and property and the fruits of your labor, but we give glad tidings to those who persevere, who say, when affected with calamity, from Allah we come, and to Allah we will return. Wa inna lillahi wa inna ilahi rajiun. Alhamdulillah. So, once again, the purpose of this platform is to discuss issues regarding Islam, issues which affect us all, and that's my intention. Alhamdulillah, time is like ice just melting away, so we have limited time in this world to leave our mark. And it's a great opportunity and great blessings from Allah to be able to do something to the point that even after we pass away, it could possibly help someone, guiding them to the truth, guiding them back to true monotheism, the true worship of our one creator, which is the reason I wrote my book, Consider Islam Disproving the Pages of Propaganda. You can look for it on my website, QBomer.com, also on Amazon, and be on the lookout for the second edition that should be out sometime in the summer. I've got a bunch of different projects going on right now, so I'm a little bit behind where I wanted to be, but I'm also writing the second book as well, Everything's a Test, Truth is Made Clear from Falsehood. I'm on chapter 10, although I've set that book to the side momentarily because I've got other things that I'm working on that I need to get out of the way before I finish writing that book. But I'm planning, inshallah, that book to be out by December, maybe January of 2021, inshallah. Allah knows best. But the sole purpose for it is to share Islam with people. You know, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a historian, you know, but I am someone who believes in the truth and the beauty of Islam. I know what Islam does for me on a day in, day out basis, and it's something that I want to share with other people. And you know, that's why I'm here. Inshallah, I'm trying to utilize the time that I do have in a means that would be pleasing to my Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a means to gain more blessings for the Day of Judgment. We believe literally that as Muslims, we believe that there's an angel on our right and an angel on our left. The angel on our right is recording all the good things that we ever do in our lives. The angel on our left is recording all of the bad things. And on the Day of Judgment, the books will be brought out, the scales will be brought out, everything that we've ever done will be weighed on that day. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts my efforts and my intentions. And so, Brother Keith, I see you're on the panel already. Brother Kareem was here, but it seems he must have lost his connection or something. He was here.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, brother. I'm actually on the EF Dawa live chat right now. I just give a link to your channel. There's like more than 130 people watching over there.
Alhamdulillah. I appreciate that, brother. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We've got some big plans coming up for this show, this platform, Consider This TV. Brother Kareem Ubaidullah, he's going to be doing some Quran classes during the month of Ramadan. So I wanted to talk about that. He's going to be able to go into more detail once he comes back on the panel. But we've got some, you know, once again, the Quran classes that are going to be taught by Brother Kareem, inshallah. And also, we've got some debates coming up. I actually had two, the husband and wife atheist team challenged me to a debate. They wanted to have a 2-on-2 debate. And so I told them the requirement was that, you know, we do it on this platform, inshallah, God willing, and that we had to be on camera. And they seem to not want to be on camera, saying that they have a 5-year-old, they don't want the 5-year-old to get on camera and all those things. But yeah, alhamdulillah, we'll see if we can work it out some way. So we have some debates coming up, and obviously we have a variety of discussions or topics that we discuss. Today it's Ask a Muslim session 4. Each time we do this Ask a Muslim thing, we're going to just keep going in sequence with the numbers. So this is actually the 4th series or the fourth show that we're doing that we're trying to allow non-Muslims to come in and ask us questions, no matter how hard or difficult the question might be. If I can't answer it, inshallah, we'll have some brothers on the panel that can. And if we can't answer it, we'll find a means to do so. And so no matter how difficult or how challenging the question might be, if it's related to Islam, and as long as you present it in a manner which, you know, is respectful, and you're not just, you know, trying to snipe at us and try to, which happens all too often. We have people come on and they try to shotgun blast us with different topics, one after another, making erroneous claims that we have to address. But as long as you come on and you're respectful, then alhamdulillah, we'll try to answer your questions. That's the whole purpose of this show. So, brother Muki, what's happening with the virus over there? Is New York talking about trying to start opening businesses up again, or are things moving slow in that regard? Are you there right now? You might be, maybe if you're on the other show. Are you there right now? Alhamdulillah, he must be tied up. So that's
about the lockdown. We have at least 3 more weeks, so I think middle of May. But
Okay.
like you said, a lot of businesses are shutting down. People again, we have like a lot of immigrants here in New York, so they don't have health insurance, and they're thinking about maybe with the warm weather coming up, the infection rate will slow down, and things are actually tapering off a little bit as far as the death toll. But we know that when September and October come back again, that's flu season, right? So they'll have to use 2 tests, one for influenza and one for coronavirus. Then when September rolls around, so it's we might have a second wave, like they're saying on the news. But
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Houston, I live here in Houston, and they're already talking about trying to open up some of the businesses and trying to still, have some boundaries set in regards to social distancing. But, personally, I think it's, alhamdulillah, I don't know all the details about all of it, but I haven't been watching the news much. I've been very busy, but to me, it seems like they're jumping the gun just a little bit. I think we need a little bit more time personally, but we'll see what happens with it. It's certainly affected everyone, and very, very interesting period of time. And I believe it's a mercy from Allah to get our attention and to slow things down, slow people down. Get people out of the clubs and get people, spending time with their families. And it's a great mercy from Allah. And it's also a test. So in regards to spending time with your families, domestic violence is those rates are going up because people are growing impatient with their family. But it's all a test, and we need to learn to be patient, learn to appreciate life, and try to avoid things that are going to be to our detriment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Do not throw yourselves into destruction by your own hands." But most of mankind are chasing things of the world that just simply aren't good for individuals or for society as a whole. And so, we need to realize that obviously this is a test. We believe in the qadr of Allah, nothing happens but by the will of Allah. And so obviously there's no question about it. Obviously, this is something that Allah has used in His wisdom. And so we need to be able to decipher what it is that we're supposed to learn on an individual basis and as society as a whole. What do we need to learn from this situation? Obviously, it's right here at the month of Ramadan, so it's even more time to focus on Allah. And I'm not sure what's going to happen in regards to the masjids being opened or not, but the masjids here in Houston are still closed. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen in regards to that. But we will, certainly find out, I'm sure. Ramadan starts, today's the 21st, the day after tomorrow, maybe the 24th, inshallah. And so, it's a great opportunity for us to grow closer to Allah and to focus on things that are most important in this life. And so that's, it's all a test, alhamdulillah. Everything's a test, and Islam is the answer, no question about it, alhamdulillah. Islam has a complete, comprehensive answer for each and everything that we'll ever endure in this life. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guiding me to Islam at the age of 17. Let me just tell my story just briefly, because people ask me so often. I very seldom talk about it when we go live, but I grew up in Houston and grew up in a very difficult home life and was actually abandoned at the age of 11 or so and was placed into foster care. Grew up in the Missouri County Youth Home, about an hour south of Houston in Missouri County, Freeport, Texas. Was placed into foster care, and I grew up at the Missouri County Youth Home. Stayed there till I was 18 years old. Not for anything that I'd done wrong. We were just simply abandoned after my parents had separated, and my brother and I went to foster care. But so that's when I was first introduced to Christianity, or to any religion. Obviously, it was Christianity based on demographics. But I was exposed to Christianity through some people that worked there at the youth home. There were some very God-fearing people. I love and respect these people to this day. And they took us to Assemblies of God churches, which are the Pentecostals and those who speak in tongues and all those things. So that was my first experience with religion. And, you know, as I started getting older, 15, 16 years old, there was things that were being stated that I began to question in my mind. I actually tell the story in a chapter of my book titled "They're All Going to Hell." I'll tell you why I named it that in a second. I named that chapter "They're All Going to Hell." But there were things that were transpiring in the church and things that were stated that I was just questioning. Sometimes we'd be praying to our Creator, who they call the Father. Sometimes we'd be praying to the Son. Sometimes within the same prayer, we've prayed to the Father and the Son at the same time. And I understand the concept of the Trinity, and I'm a student of comparative religion. I completely understand the position and the belief, but I find it simply illogical. And at that period of time, I was like, this doesn't make sense. There was other things going on inside the church I won't get into right now, but some other things that were a bit odd and peculiar, to say the least. I do go into detail about that in the book, but one defining day, a preacher, an assistant pastor, was preaching, standing in for the regular preacher, and he comes off the stage with a towel in his hand, fire and brimstone preacher, right? Comes off the stage with a towel in his hand saying, Muslims are going to hell. Jews are going to hell. If you don't accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior, you're going to hell. And he was sweating and yelling. He had a microphone in his hand. He didn't need it because he was yelling so loud. And I remember sitting there and I thought, kind of tilted my head to the side. I remember it so clearly. Alhamdulillah, the great blessing from Allah. That day was forever etched in my mind. And so I tilted my head to the side and I thought, how does he know? How does this man know who's going to hell? And I envisioned in my mind the earth, literally. I envisioned the earth and I thought, all these people on the other side of the earth, they were born to be Muslims and Jews and different races of people, different nationalities. But this preacher here in Angleton, Texas, about an hour south of Houston, Angleton, Texas, has condemned all of these people to hell simply because they don't believe the way he believes. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. How could a merciful God create all of these people and condemn them to hell from the moment of their conception, knowing that they're going to be raised as Muslims and Jews, and that's how he created them, placed them there, and that's the conditions they're faced with. How can this man in Angleton, Texas, make this claim that they're all going to hell? And I had a big problem with that. Obviously, as a Muslim, I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does test everyone through a variety of things. So some people who are born into other religions, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that before the day of judgment, Islam will enter every household. Islam will enter every household. So those who have been given the message of Islam, guiding us back to the true worship of our Creator and our Creator alone, true monotheism, associating no partners and no equals with our Creator, those people who understand that Islamic concept, which is the concept of every prophet, peace be upon them all, that have been sent to mankind throughout history. People who understand that concept but then reject it, those people are in trouble. Which only makes sense. Allah's going to judge us based on our level of intellect, our level of knowledge, our level of understanding, and so he's going to be just with us. But for those people who truly comprehend the true oneness of our Creator, but still stubbornly resort back to traditional beliefs, I call it the golden calf syndrome. I mentioned this in the first chapter of the book, relating it to the children of Israel who roamed around in the desert for 40 years because they kept trying to revert back to the false idols and gods of their captors, the Egyptians. They kept wanting to go back to that because that's what made them comfortable. And so they kept roaming around in the desert because it's just simply being stubborn, wanting to go back and follow the traditional beliefs of their forefathers. And so I call it the golden calf syndrome. And the unfortunate thing is that the vast majority of Christians accept Christianity simply because it's been fed to the masses the way it has. Missionaries, matter of fact, missionaries paid by the government to go in to third world countries to try to Christianize people, and just all the things that have transpired. People simply, most Christians, and this is not an attack on Christianity or Christians as a whole, obviously there's some that are very learned, but the vast majority simply accept what the preacher says on Sunday morning, and they don't engage themselves in actual study or research about their own religion. And so therefore, they're just Christians by tradition. And if not for a friend of mine, getting back to my story, a friend of mine, he was actually, I say a friend of mine, alhamdulillah, he played many different roles in my life, but he was one of my football coaches, and he was, I played football in high school. He was one of the coaches there, and he was also a DJ. He used to DJ back in the day, and we actually signed a record deal together when I was 16 years old. Maybe I was 15 years old when we signed the record deal, almost 16. And we signed a record deal together, a nationwide release, video on BET and other video shows throughout the nation. And we were doing shows, touring, doing stuff music-wise. But in between us recording our first album and our second album, he became a member of the Nation of Islam, the Black Muslims. And so that was my first introduction to Islam on any level. And he started talking about the oneness of Allah. The Nation of Islam is, it's not Orthodox Islam, but there's, and I respect those brothers for trying to uplift their community and try to rebuild the Black community and all those things. But I began to question one day going to the studio, my partner's Quran was sitting between us, and I picked it up and I started reading. And as I engaged myself in more, trying to learn more about Islam, I began to ask, I started asking him, how come I can't go to the temple? They call it the temple. They didn't call it the masjid. They call their place of worship the temple. And so I would ask him why it is that I couldn't go to the temple. And I couldn't go because of the color of my skin. But we know as Muslims that in the final sermon of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that an Arab is not better than a non-Arab, and a non-Arab is not better than an Arab. A black is not superior to a white, and a white is not superior to a black. We're all equal in the sight of Allah, other than our obedience to Him. And so I was questioning things, but nevertheless, alhamdulillah, that's the means by which I was introduced to Islam, through the dawah of this brother, and he did pass away a number of years back. But I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that relationship, because he had a huge impact on my life. He was a very strong Muslim brother, and he taught me a lot, alhamdulillah. So I thank Allah for guiding me through him. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses the brother on the day of judgment and has mercy on him. Alhamdulillah. So that's how I was introduced to Islam. And so I accepted Islam at the age of 17 fully, when I began to understand completely what it was. I say completely. It's a never-ending learning process. Alhamdulillah, Islam there's so much to learn. But once I wrapped my mind around simply accepting the belief in one Creator, one God, not one that has a son, just one God, true monotheism. And I believe that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the final messenger. And alhamdulillah, so I accepted Islam at the age of 17. And so I'm so grateful for that. And so back to the coronavirus issue, the things that I've been through in my life, it's been Islam. It's been the dependence on my Creator. It's been, especially in 2014, went through a very difficult situation. And if not for Islam, I don't know what I would have done to endure it. If I didn't have the opportunity to go back to Allah repeatedly. I'm not saying that the people of other religions don't return to prayer repeatedly, but just the way the prayer is structured, the constant remembrance and focus on Allah throughout the day is so vital and so very crucial. And I simply can't make it without Allah. I see Ronnie Pena is coming in, and speak of Freeport, Texas. He played football with me at Brazosport High School, and was he was an underclassman. He was a grade behind
6
me.
years. 6 years.
But, yeah, last year was 7, so the last show was 7, so alhamdulillah. I'm getting
Yeah.
younger in that regard. You doing all right today?
Oh yeah, I'm doing good. I had a little plumbing issue. I just had to call a plumber. You know how it is over here in Lake Jackson. Got a lot of trees, so I have some roots growing into my plumbing in the front of the house. So.
Oh yeah.
No.
That's not good. That's not good at all. Yeah. So you're doing all right then?
Yeah,
huh?
I'm doing good. I'm still doing good. Just kind of, boy, we're getting to football season, coming close to summer workouts and things. So we're contacting our players. I'm on the offensive line coach, so we're trying to make sure they're still working out. They're not getting all out of shape and stuff like that. You know how it is.
Yeah. What's the talk about the opening? I thought the school. Well, school's about to be out anyway. We're approaching summer. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
It's almost summertime anyway. So, I guess school's out for the rest of the year anyway. So I guess that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to be going. If things are going right now, if there's like this in August, then we might not go back at the beginning of school either. So, but we're trying to get some old weights and bars and things like that to as many players as we can. We got permission to get them some old weights so they can start working out.
So let me ask you, there's not some kind of stipulations about that with the as far as the rules go? I guess if they're just working out, but it seems that might be on the boundary of if the school is providing them equipment, that might be I don't know, that might be a touchy thing there.
Yeah. Well, we
obviously they're not practicing. That's the main condition. They're not actually having an organized practice, but I don't know how that works. Although I guess it wouldn't matter because in the summertime they opened up the school for people to work out anyway. So I guess it wouldn't be any different.
Yeah. As long as they're working out, we provide them with the weights, and the coach is not there to teach them or coach them up and stuff like that. Then we're fine. And you know what's so funny is that they changed the rules. We can actually have 2 hours a week now to teach them football during the summer. So.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. I see Sister Stephanie just came on. Assalamu alaikum, sister. And Brother Makid, I'll take you off mute if you want to contribute to the conversation. I think you're over there with EF Dawah. But
yeah, I'm a little busy with the chat. There's 312 people watching on the. Ijaz is on there right now, right?
He's on. I didn't know he was on there right now. No, I didn't.
Yeah, we're talking about the crucifixion with Hamza and Ijaz.
Okay.
So I just posted your link in the chat because I'm a mod there 3 or 4 times.
Okay, brother. I sure appreciate that. Alhamdulillah.
No worries, man.
I'm sure you got a moderator.
All right. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'll be back in like an hour, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. All right, Ronnie Pena, we're waiting on Kareem to join the platform. It looks like Ijaz is got his hands full over there on EF Dawah channel, and so what do you think about the conversation that we had yesterday in regards to the guy who was making the videos and all that, and just I was thinking about this earlier today, the fact that it seems that some of the people that come on you can just tell by the sound of their voice. It's like a hatred that they're speaking with a hatred, and you can just sense it in the sound of their voice, right?
Right.
And just the attitude, and it's like, wow, man, these you're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, trying to work with them and trying to be patient and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like no matter what happens, they're gonna go right back to the same shenanigans. So what do you think about that?
Well, my opinion on that is no respect to that gentleman. He's a grown man. As far as the society is concerned, he's considered a grown man. But as a teacher, high school teacher and a high school coach, we have students that they're taught. I'm not saying this man's special ed or anything like that, but there are students that like Brother Kareem was talking about, social cues and things like that. Well, they actually teach social cues and how to get along with people for the students at the high school level. But when these students and graduate and they don't really know how to communicate, and they're not sociable people, and when they graduate, they're on their own. And so if they're able to if these people or students are able to live a life on their own and take care of themselves, and there's no need for any more assistance as far as the school is concerned, or the government, and so they get out on their own, and so we see people like that, and I'm not trying to put the man down or anything like that, but I feel that he may be one of those types of guys that doesn't know how to communicate, or has a hatred, and he's really not. I don't want to say he's not all there, but I think he might be one of the, like, a special needs person. And no offense to him at all. I'm just saying what my opinion is.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when he comes on platforms like this, some people they don't they can't pick up on that, and so they see somebody that's talking like this, and which is a good thing and a bad thing to me, okay? Because the good thing is that everybody on this platform, if you're going to come in here and speak, then you really get the respect of all of everybody that's in here, as you're going to say something that's has some substance and things like that. And so you really don't have people looking down on anybody in here like if they were dumb or anything like that. But at the same time, some people need to recognize somebody like this man, and maybe have some kind of some patience, you know what I mean, with him, and recognize that he maybe not all there. He has something wrong with him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, could be. There's what's called Asperger's syndrome, which is people who can't relate to just social cues, and they can't relate to how someone else might think, or how someone else might feel. And so obviously there's different levels of Asperger's syndrome, but that's what comes to mind when I think about it. Just the sound of the voice coming in, and not talking peacefully in any regard.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, people don't like to be talked to like that, and
Yeah,
some people don't, and it's all a test. I try to be patient with them. I've lost my patience a couple of times, but some of the brothers, they're just out and out. They don't want them on anymore. They just
right. Well, but like some of the brothers, like you said, some of the brothers didn't want him on, but whenever they communicate with him, they get frustrated because he's not picking up what they are trying to say. I don't think he ever will be able to. He just has something on his mind, and so it frustrates both sides. But like I said, I recognized the way he was talking. I recognized the way he was acting, and you got to pick up on maybe he's one of those type of people that is unable to have a conversation like that, and he just likes being unfortunately he likes being in the discussion platforms, but he's not able to.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things, the rhetoric that he uses, you can tell that he got it from Christian Prince. Obviously, he's listened to a lot of Christian Prince. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever listened to Christian Prince. If you haven't, you would completely understand why I'm saying that. This guy.
Yeah. Well, I tried to, but I couldn't find his I couldn't find his YouTube channel. Is he under something different than Christian Prince, or is it?
The Arabian Prophet or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I tried looking for him, but I couldn't find him.
Yeah, it's disgusting, to be honest. It's truly, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Kareem. He came in, but he was only on for a second, and then he was back out. So I'm not sure what's going on.
I had a question that I was gonna wait to ask. When everybody was on, so everybody can have an input about the Prophet Muhammad. And I guess my question was before he became a prophet. I mean, I don't know how to go about asking this, but I know so if you don't become a prophet until God reveals something to you, am I right? Or are you always a prophet even beforehand, or how does that work?
Well, he wasn't aware that he was going to be a prophet until the age of 40. So
okay.
The story is that up until the age of 40, like we mentioned, he was an orphan. He was raised by his uncle. He became the he would lead the caravans, for the trade caravans, and he wound up marrying Khadijah. May Allah be pleased with her. At the age she was 40 years old, he was 25. So at the age of 25, he married Khadijah, who was 40. And bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, and so he married her at the age of 25. She was 40, and he was still leading the trade caravans. And so, like we had mentioned, he used to take refuge. He wanted to have solitude. He wanted to get away from things that were transpiring in Mecca at that time. Women were routinely just seen naked around the Kaaba. Women were used as commodity, just commodity. Women were just totally disrespected. Just a lot of different things transpiring. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ just simply tried to get away. So it was on one of those times when he was away. He was in the cave, meditating, praying, and the angel Gabriel came. And when he first came, he grabbed the Prophet and he said, "Iqra." He said, "Recite." The word "Iqra" in the Arabic language means to read, recite, proclaim. It says "Iqra." And so the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, I don't read. I'm unlearned. I don't read or write. And he told him again, "Iqra." The Prophet Muhammad was, he's encountering an angel, so he's somewhat shook up, and he's like, is this real? Am I imagining this? What is this? So that's why the angel Gabriel actually embraced him and squeezed him, and he squeezed him pretty tight, letting him know, I'm here, I am real, and he told him once again, "Iqra." He told him 3 times, "Iqra." He said, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Read and recite in the name of your Lord who created, who taught man by the pen that which he did not know. And so he said, read, for your Lord is most gracious. Alhamdulillah. So at that point, that was just a very few words were revealed to him at that point. But he was telling him to read, recite, proclaim. And so at that point, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ started running down the mountain. He was in fear. And again, he heard the angel reveal and say that I'm the angel Gabriel, and you are the prophet of Allah. You're a prophet. And so he goes to his wife Khadijah, and he's telling her, "Wrap me up, cover me, cover me." And he starts telling her what happened. He's shaking. He's in fear, and he's saying that I don't know what happened. This being came telling me that I'm a prophet, and that I'm that he was the angel. He was telling her what happened. And he says, "Wrap me up." And so they go from there, and they go to her uncle, who was a Christian man, and they tell him the story, and it's the Christian man that confirmed and said, "This is the angel Gabriel who came to the prophets before you," and he said, "Oh, how I wish I would live long enough to be here with you to help defend you, because people are going to turn against you just like they've done all the other prophets." And that's what obviously that is what happened in the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He began to tell just the first few people that he told that he was a prophet, and so it went from him being well respected to now he's being attacked, just like the Christian man told him was going to happen. Now he's being attacked and being ridiculed and being mocked, and being, the Muslims are being started being tortured, and they stopped trading with anyone who accepted Islam. They stopped trading with those people. They couldn't do any business in Mecca, so they had to flee to Medina for 10 years. And after 10 years, they were amongst the Jews of Medina, and also some pagans there. And throughout that course of 10 years, many people accepted Islam during that period of time. So then they go back to Mecca after that 10-year period with 10,000 Muslims. And when they get there, they went in, they took Mecca, but no one was killed. Not one person was killed. As a matter of fact, the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, came to him and asked him, "What do we do about the people who used to oppress us before? These pagans and the Jewish people and these people that were our oppressors. What do we do with them?" He said, "Do not harm them. Allow them their religious freedom." And no one was harmed. So to answer your question before, he was just he was well respected. He was al-Alamin, the known as the truthful one, like I mentioned to you, and he was not aware that he was called to be a prophet to the age of 40. So obviously Allah is our creator. He knows who he chose to be prophets. But the fact of the matter is, like Kareem mentioned yesterday, is that, or one of the brothers mentioned, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, out of all the prophets in the world, even Jesus, peace be upon him, the life of the Prophet Muhammad is so well documented through the hadith, with strong chains of narration for the authentic hadith, the Sahih hadith. We don't have that for any other prophet of man that ever came. Many of the prophets, based on the hadith, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there's 124,000 prophets and messengers that have been sent to mankind, and most of which we don't know who they are. We don't know their names, but so the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the most documented prophet that we have record of. So of all the prophets.
So he was he was he was exposed to at the time before he became a prophet. From what I was hearing you say, he was exposed to Christianity, pagans, and was there Roman Catholic? What's it called? Roman was it called Catholicism, or what's it called?
Catholicism.
Catholicism. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. This was in the 7th century. So yes, Roman Catholicism already existed at that time, obviously.
So what do you think he was following any of those, or what was there another type of people that didn't believe in any of that, or what is the?
Well, most people in around Mecca were pagans. There were some Jews, but most were pagans, so they're worshiping stones and statues, and they had they were practicing paganism. But
so if you had to say what the Prophet Muhammad was before 40, from what you know about him, what would you say he might have been, if anything?
Oh, you're talking about religious wise, what was he doing? Well,
yeah,
it indicates that he was only worshiping Allah. So even the pagans of that time, they believed in an all powerful. I think Kareem mentioned that yesterday. They believed in the Creator Allah, but they believed that there were sub gods underneath them. Gods for this and gods for that, and all these gods. So they all believed in or the vast majority believed that there was an ultimate creator, or ultimate God, but they had, all these other intermediaries in between. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never engaged in any type of idol worship or anything like that.
Right.
So,
I would think that he would be more friends, like you said, from your stories you told me, that before he was 40, that he was more integrated with Christians. Only because of their attributes and their demeanor and their personalities.
Well, no, it's like I said, the vast majority of the people that he was around were pagans. But in Medina, when they were forced to leave Medina, or flee to Medina, there were some Jews there. There was also some pagans there. So it was kind of a mixture of people there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, alhamdulillah. So I was just looking at something real quick, but yeah, so it was a mixture of people. Now, what some people try to do is try to imply that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he plagiarized or he stole from various other sources, but it's illogical to think that, because the Quran issues a challenge, and the Quran says that if this Quran would have been from anyone other than Allah, you would find in it much contradiction and much inconsistency. Okay, so if the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was to plagiarize from these previous writings, that would mean that he would have been a genius in the fact that he would have got sources that couldn't be contradicted, that weren't proven wrong, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
I'm not explaining this properly. So it would mean that he would, because of the way the Quran has been revealed and the various things that it addresses. So it talks about mountains, and it talks about water, and it talks about bees and ants, and all of these things that we have signs in science that indicate that that the Quran could only be revealed through our Creator based on what's stated about these things. So let me give you an example. The Prophet Muhammad, the Quran says, alhamdulillah, says that it describes the mountains as being like pegs in the ground. They're like pegs. And if you study mountains, I forgot the name of the actual study, slips from my mind right now. But if you study the mountains, you'll see that the science explains it, that the mountains pegs, that the mass underneath the ground is much larger than the mass that's on the surface that we can see. The mass underneath there is much larger, and it actually is in place, and it prevents the tectonic plates from actually moving and shifting. But it gives so the Quran addresses it and says that the mountains are like pegs that allow, and I'm just paraphrasing right here, but it's saying that the mountains are like pegs that that allow the earth, that prevent the earth from shifting. Let me find the verses. I don't want to tell you wrong, but
all right.
This is very interesting. This is one of the parts where those who try to make the claim that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam may have plagiarized from other sources. It's crazy because he would have had to get all the correct information and wouldn't have got anything that has ever been proven wrong, if that makes sense. So let me tell you what this says about the mountains, inshallah. Okay, so there's a book titled Earth, and it's a basic reference book in universities around the world. It's called Earth, and so one of its authors his name is Emeritus Frank Press, and he was a science advisor and former U.S. president. He was a science advisor for President Jimmy Carter. Anyways, his book says that mountains have underlying roots, And these roots are deeply embedded in the ground. Thus, mountains have a shape like a peg. And so the verses of the Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he says, have we not made the earth as a bed and the mountains as pegs? Okay, so modern science is proving that like I mentioned, underlying roots that's much larger than the mass that we see on top of the ground. So Allah says, and he has set firm the mountains in the earth. Note how it's being stated. This is just the translation, but in the Arabic, this is a good translation here that describes. It says, and he has set firm mountains in the earth so that it would not shake with you. Okay, so if you study this book of Earth, what is that noise right there, Ronnie?
I don't know. Let me go ahead and mute myself.
It's okay. It's okay. So anyway, so this issue about the mountains was only actually the study was revealed in 1865 by Royal Sir George Aubrey. And so anyways, if you study plate tectonics and you study mountains and how the root system is, you'll see that it's consistent with what the Quran states. And so there's many things like this. Allah says that there's two bodies of water that do not transgress the bounds. One has a sweet taste to it. One is salty. Based on the salinity in the water, these two bodies of water come together and they don't cross. Although they don't transgress. They don't intermingle. But they look if you just look at it at the water, the bodies of, it looks like it's the same body of water. But in fact, modern science has proven that these two bodies of water, the fresh water, the salt water, they don't mix. This was revealed in the Quran over 1,400 years ago. And so I'm bringing these points up because there's many things like this that are mentioned in the Quran that prove that it can only come from our Creator. Another one is ants. The Quran describes the ants as communicating with one another, and when it describes the ants as communicating, it refers to a female ant based on the feminine and the masculine of the verb, or the noun rather. And so it just refers to the female ant, and it's the female ant in particular that actually does have an actual. They do communicate with one another through their own language. They actually communicate with one another. Same thing applies to bees. So anyways, there's many examples of this in the Quran, and so I'm bringing this up because it indicates that only our Creator would know these things, and therefore he could not have. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ could not have plagiarized from any other sources, including any religious text or anything like that. And so, alhamdulillah. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I kind of got off topic there with it, but
no, that's interesting. But I don't know. I guess my personal opinion is I feel like a lot of those things also, and I don't know all the things that are in there, but like some of those things that I've heard and like some of the things you told me is that they back in those days, I mean, I feel that maybe they could have studied a lot of that stuff as well.
the mountains.
Well, not the mountains, but like the ants and.
How could they study the ants in the 7th century?
I mean, if you look at ants right now yourself, I mean, you can see where there's a queen. There's they have communication where there's the way they do their tunnels and the way they communicate as far as getting food from each other and tell the workers and things like that.
Well, there was a recent study that came out, some research that came out, and I'm trying to think where I have it right now. But it's on. Matter of fact, it was on Nightline as well. It came out on Nightline, and it was discussing the way ants communicate. And so this study, knowing how the ants communicate, it's all modern. It's only recent. It's only, matter of fact, if I remember correct. Let me bring it up right quick. because this
Okay.
is important, because all of this is modern
Oh, so they're
information.
finding stuff that we didn't even know before, right? Is that what you're saying? As
Yes,
far as
and that,
okay.
yes, and that's what I'm saying. Like the two bodies of water, for instance, we only know that these two bodies of water don't mix based on modern technology being able to gauge the salinity in the water and actually proving that these two the salt water and the fresh water are not mixing with one another. But if you
So
look at it
yeah.
if you look at it with the naked eye, it looks like it's one body of water. But the fact is, when they come together, they don't mix with one another. The salinity in the salt water is too dense, and it won't allow the fresh water to intermingle with it. And
Mm.
so, for this to be revealed in the Quran 1400 years ago, there's no way that someone with the naked eye could look at a body of water and be able to decipher which is salt, which is fresh water, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just I guess from I got from it was you can go to a lake, a freshwater lake, and you can tell the difference by the taste or by touching or and then go to the ocean. You know what I'm saying? But you're saying the mixture of it.
Yeah, the mixture itself, saying
Yeah.
right. So, regardless of the taste, regardless of all that, the fact that they don't the fresh water does not intermingle with the salt water, which is uh, how can I even let's put it like this. So back to the plagiarism. If the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have written the Quran himself, then either he guessed right on everything. So even if someone says, "Oh, anyone can know about that," okay, well, that's fine. Well, it's in the Quran, and it's in agreement with modern science. Okay, so
Yeah.
it would indicate that the Prophet Muhammad would have had no way to know that the things that if he obviously he didn't write the Quran, but if he wrote the Quran, then he would have had no way to know what content to add and what to leave out based on eventually it could be proven wrong, which is why the Quran says if this Quran had been revealed by anyone other than Allah, you would find in it much consistency, much inconsistency and much error.
Hmm.
So it's matter of fact, I'm bringing up this article on these ants right here. Yeah, 2013. Yeah. Okay. So let me share my screen here, and we'll just look at this briefly.
Okay.
And bear with me 1 second. So this is in 2013 that this particular article is written. You can also find information on it associated with Nightline. Nightline did a story on it. Okay, it says the name of the article is The Ants Are Talking by Carrie Arnold. And it says, I'll just read it briefly. I won't read the entire thing. I don't think it's matter of fact, it's not very long, but nevertheless, I'll post the link if you want it. And you can see that this is modern science. Okay, so it says, if you want to survive an ant, you better get ready to make some noise. A new study shows that even an ant pupa, a stage between larva and adult, can communicate via sound, and this communication can be crucial to their survival. Now, note what it's saying. A new study shows it's not. So this issue about the ants communicating with one another and using the feminine in particular, the feminine word to describe this communication was revealed in the 7th century, long before microscopes, long before these studies are made. So 2013, this particular article written 2013, and it's saying a new study shows that even the ant pupa, a stage between larva and adult, can communicate via sound, and that's the communication. This communication can be crucial to their survival. It says what's cool about this paper is that the researchers have shown for the first time that pupa do in fact make some sort of sound, says Dr. Phil DeVries, an entomologist at the University of New Orleans in Louisiana, who is not involved in the study. Says this was a very clear piece of natural history and science. Scientists have known for decades that the ants use a variety of small chemicals known as pheromones to communicate. That's not the language, so that's just the pheromones. That's something that's been common knowledge for a while, like they're stating. Perhaps the most classic example is the trail of pheromones the insects place as they walk. Those behind them follow this trail, leading to long lines of ants marching one by one. However, the insects also use pheromones to identify which nest an ant is from and its social status in the nest. Because this chemical communication is so prevalent and complex, researchers long believed that this was the primary way ants shared information. Let me let her back in. But it says, however, several years ago, researchers began to notice that adults in some ant genuses, such as Myrmica, which contains more than 200 diverse species found across Europe and Asia, made noise. These types of ants have a specialized spike along their abdomen that they stroke with one of their hind legs, similar to dragging the teeth of a comb along the edge of a table. Preliminary studies seem to indicate that the noise served primarily as an emergency beacon allowing the ants to shout for help when being threatened by a predator. Larvae and young pupa have soft outer skeletons, which means their specialized spikes haven't yet formed and they can't make noise. However, the pupa mature, their covering hardens into a tough exoskeleton like that found in adult ants. The older pupa do have fully functional spikes, but were generally thought to be silent. Talking ants. Okay.
That's crazy. That's awesome. I'm not surprised that God can make something like that, but
Yeah.
that is amazing. So could you go ahead and read the Quran again concerning the ants?
Around the ants. Let me get the verses. Alhamdulillah. I don't remember.
All right.
Okay, all right, so let me show you this real quick. Okay, so one says all male ants have wings. So this is the miracles of the Quran regarding ants. It says wingless ants are all females. All male ants have wings. All worker ants are females. All ants that don't have wings are definitely females. This was only known recently. Okay, it says, but 1,400 years ago, the Quran addressed ants who cannot fly in the female mode. Remember I told you I mentioned that. I didn't talk about the flying, but this is another one. This is another issue. So the Quran in chapter 27, verse 18, it says, it says, until when they came upon the valley of the ants, an ant said for the females, O ants, enter your homes so that you do not be crushed by Solomon and his soldiers while they do not feel it. It says, for the word said, Kala is for males, Kalat is for females. The Quran used Kalat as females. If this ant had wings, it would have flown off. However, it didn't have this option. Instead, its only option was to hide underground. Since it didn't have wings, then it was definitely a female ant. Here, the Quran correctly addressed this ant in the female mode. How can an illiterate man who lived 100 years ago have known that wingless ants are females? It goes into the Bible. It says the Bible erroneously claims that there are four-legged insects in Leviticus 11:20. It also claims that there is an animal. So it says it also. Let me put you on mute there. Okay, it says it also claims that there's an animal that has flames stream from its mouth, sparks of fire shoot out, smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot over burning seed. Its breath sets coal ablaze and flames dart out of its mouth. In Job 41:19. This is the same description of the mythical Chinese dragon. Okay, so so that was just one issue about the wings on the ants. Let me go to another one. So there's two things. There's two things to be mentioned there. One is the fact that about the wings issue The other is the one doing the communicating was the female. The story that I seen on Nightline, and I'll try to find the link for it, but the story I seen on Nightline indicated specifically, based on new study and new research, that it was the female ant in particular that does the communicating. It's the female, not the male. It's the female ant that does the communicating. The Quran is indicating that, once again, based on the Arabic, that it's the female ant that's doing the communicating. So this is mind-boggling if you consider this was revealed in the 7th century, before these studies were nowhere close to being conducted, right?
Yeah. So that's the part where that's the part in the Quran where that they that says that they were talking, that the female ant was communicating. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to read it to you right here. As a matter of fact, it's a surah titled The Ants. Okay, Surah 27. And it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. These are verses of the Quran, a book that makes things clear, a guide and glad tidings for the believers, those who establish regular prayers and give in regular charity, and also have full assurance of the hereafter. As to those who believe not in the hereafter, we have made their deeds pleasing in their eyes, and so they wander about in distraction. Such are they for whom a grievous penalty is waiting, and in the hereafter theirs will be the greatest loss. As to thee, the Quran is bestowed upon thee from the presence of one who is wise and all-knowing. Behold, Moses said to his family, I perceive a fire. Soon will I bring you from there some information, for I'll bring you a burning brand to light our fuel, that you may warn yourselves. But when he came to the fire, a voice was heard, blessed are those in the fire and those around, and glory to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. O Moses, verily I am Allah, the exalted in might, the wise. Now do thou throw thy rod. Now do you throw your rod. Now throw your rod, basically what it's saying. But when he saw it moving of its own accord, as if it had been a snake, he turned back in retreat and retraced not his steps. O Moses, it said, fear not, truly in my presence, those called as apostles have no fear. But if any have done wrong and have thereafter substituted good to take place of evil, truly I am all forgiving and most merciful. Now put thy hand in thy bosom, and it will come forth white without stain or harm. These are among the 9 signs that will take to Pharaoh and his people, for they are a people in rebellious transgression. But when our signs came to them, Alhamdulillah says, but when our signs came to them that should have opened their eyes, they said, this is sorcery manifest. And they rejected those signs in iniquity and arrogance, though their souls were convinced thereof. So see what was the end of those who acted corruptly. We gave in the past knowledge to David and Solomon, and they both said, praise be to Allah, who has favored us above many of his servants who believe. And Solomon was David's heir, and he said, O ye people, we have been taught the speech of birds, and on us has been bestowed a little of all things. This is indeed grace manifest from Allah. And before Solomon were marshaled his host of jinns and men and birds, and they were all kept in order in ranks. At length, when they came to a lowly valley of ants, one of the ants said, O ye ants, get into your habitations, lest Solomon and his host crush you underfoot without knowing it. So he smiled, amused at her speech. Solomon could recognize and communicate with the ant. He could communicate. He heard the ant, right? So it says, so he smiled, amused at her speech. And note what the Quran is stating. It's saying in particular, so he smiled, amused at her speech. And he said, O my Lord, so order me that I may be grateful for your favors, which thou hast bestowed upon me and my parents, and that I may work the righteousness that will please you, and admit me by your grace to the ranks of the righteous servants. And he took a muster of the birds, and he said, why is it I see not the hoopoe, or is he among the absentees? I will certainly punish him with a severe penalty or execute him unless he brings me a clear reason for absence. It says, but the hoopoe tarried not far. He came up and said, I have compassed territory which you have not compassed, and I have come to thee from Saba with tidings true. And I found there a woman ruling over them, provided with every requisite, and she has a magnificent throne. And I found her and her people worshiping the sun besides Allah, and Satan has made their deeds seem pleasing in their eyes, and has kept them away from the path, so they receive no guidance. And so I'll stop right there, because that was the reference to the ants right there. So Solomon, peace be, may Allah be pleased with him, peace be upon him. He Acts 18, yeah, alhamdulillah. So Solomon was indicating, based on the verses of the Quran, that it was the female ant in particular that cried out and was warning the other ants to go back into their colonies or whatever, so that the army of Solomon doesn't crush them under their feet. So one of the miracles for Solomon was that he could communicate with animals and insects. He could communicate with jinn. Are you familiar with what jinn are?
No.
Okay, jinn are what we believe as Muslims that Satan was comprised of. So Satan in the Quran, his name is Iblis. His name is Iblis. And when Adam was created, he cried out. He complained to Allah. He said, and when Allah told the jinn and the men, the jinn is a spirit world, okay, spirit beings, and I'm going to talk more about it, but let me explain this. So when Allah created Adam, he created Adam and said that Adam was the best of mankind. Iblis, Satan, was very arrogant, and that's the first signs of prejudice and racism and all those things, bigotry. He says, why should I cry out? I'm paraphrasing, but he says, why should I bow to him when he's created of dirt, and you've made me of smokeless blue flame? So the jinn are in the spirit form in the smokeless blue flame, and they're amongst us. We can't see them, but it's a spirit world that there's good jinn and there's bad jinn. They're also influenced by the shaitan, which are the demons. So with that being said, Solomon could actually communicate with the spirit world. Also, he had power over mankind. He was obviously a king, and he also could communicate with animals and insects. And so in the process of marching, he heard this female ant communicate to the other ants and tell them to hide themselves so that the army of Solomon does not crush them. And he actually heard her. Doesn't say where he was at and when he heard her, but how far away, but he heard her. And it indicates specifically that it was a female ant. And whether or not someone wants to look at this as a miracle or not, it's beside the point. The fact of the matter is, which I do believe it's a miracle. Most Muslims believe this is a miracle from Allah. Allah says in the Quran, we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until they know that this Quran is from their Lord. Okay, so with that being said, if someone wanted to reject and say, that's just it was just a coincidence. Okay, well, okay, you could say that. But the fact of the matter is that there's so many of these so-called coincidences that are all consistent with science, that it's impossible for a man to have written these things and be accurate in all of these different points. It's totally impossible.
Yeah. I mean, I could see where if it would say that if the Quran just said the ants went back into their homes so they would not be crushed, then I could see where you could say that the army of Solomon was so great that even the ants were being crushed in the ground, and that's how big. But to go into detail as far as listening to a female ant and stuff like that, there's something in that. Yeah. To go into that detail like that. So
another thing that I bring up primarily when I'm dealing with atheists or when I'm talking about this subject is if I ask you, Ronnie, to be honest, how much do you think clouds weigh?
Wet or dry?
Just clouds in the sky with airplanes flying through them. We could run our hand through them if we're up there. We could just run our hand through them. Birds flying through the clouds. How much do you think clouds weigh?
I don't think they have. It's impossible to weigh a cloud. So I think clouds weigh nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what most people would think, unless you had some kind of a schooling to gauge and know.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. If you put a cloud, if you measured a jar or a beacon with a lid on it, and you measured it and then zeroed it out, and then put some cloud in there, then you and the difference, then it would weigh something. You're right.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. So if you'll find that the Quran makes many references to the weight of clouds, describing the clouds in particular. It doesn't describe specifically the weight, but describes the clouds as being heavy repeatedly. Now, if you put yourself in the 7th century, and this is being revealed to people in a desert region, they very seldom seen rain, and you start telling these people that clouds are heavy, you start describing clouds as being heavy, but you're looking up and they're floating in the air, and they're seeing birds flying through them. They didn't have airplanes at that time, obviously, but they could see birds flying through the clouds and all those things, and they just seem to be floating up there. It would, just the uneducated person would simply assume that these clouds are they're weightless. They're just floating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is the Quran makes 3 or 4 different references to the heavy clouds. Okay. And if you see, I don't know if you see what I'm sharing on my screen right here. I just put in there weight of clouds. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says clouds will easily weigh millions of pounds because they contain vast amounts of tiny droplets of water and ice. Cumulus clouds are the clouds that most people are familiar with. The average weight of these puffy clouds is 1.1 million pounds.
Wow.
Okay, so brother,
that's crazy.
So what I'm pointing out here is like the ants talking, and pointing out that it's the female ant in particular that was doing the talking to the King Solomon, and the bodies of water that don't transgress one another. This is another modern science discovery that, based on the salinity, the fresh water and the salt water don't mix, even though the naked eye, it looks like they're mixing. It looks like one body of water. Okay. And the weight of the clouds, once again, being referred to 3 or 4 different verses of the Quran, referring to the clouds as being heavy clouds. Matter of fact, let me read one of the verses.
Yeah. Now, to be honest with you, whenever I hear someone say, and I've heard this before too, about clouds being heavy, I automatically think of it as someone saying that there's rain clouds. You know what I mean?
But yeah, are you saying just the figure of speech that we have heavy clouds today?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
that. But note what the Quran says in chapter 24, verse 43. It says, "Have you not seen how Allah makes the clouds move gently, then joins them together, and then He makes them into a stack, and then rain comes out of it?" So that's one reference to the clouds. But it says, it goes on to say, and He sends down hail from mountains, referring to clouds in the sky, and He strikes with it whomever He wills, and He turns from it whomever He wills. The vivid flash of its lightning nearly blinds the sight. Okay, and so, alhamdulillah. Let me bring in Brother Ibn Anwar. Assalamu alaikum, brother. And assalamu alaikum, brother Yahya. Got caught up in conversation. I wasn't watching the panel, but assalamu alaikum to all of you. Are y'all there?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay. All right. Bear with me 1 second.
All right.
All right. So look at this one I'm bringing up, Ronnie, since I have the screensaver up. It says, "It is He who sends down the winds, bringing advanced news of His mercy, it bringing advanced news of his mercy, so that when you have lifted up the heavy clouds, we dispatch them to a dead land and send down water to it, by means of which we bring forth all kinds of fruit. In another verse in Surah Al-Ra'd, it says, "It is he who shows you the lightning, striking fear and bringing hope. It is he who heaps up the heavy clouds." So if you notice, once again, and put all this in the context, and place yourself like when I just asked you, you'd say, you just said yourself that it just seems like they're light. They don't have any weight to them, or however you described it. That's pretty much what you were getting at. And so if you put yourself in the desert, and you're looking up at these clouds, and you wouldn't think that these clouds have any weight to them at all. But on the contrary, they're described as heavy in particular. One, like I just showed you there by just simply Googling it, 1.1 or 1.1 or 1.2 million pounds, these cumulus clouds. So it's astonishing. And it goes back to, once again, if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have plagiarized, and he would have had to just been lucky in getting all of these things accurate with modern science, all the discoveries of modern science. Brother Ibn Anwar, are you there? Okay, assalamu alaikum. So anyways, Ronnie, there's many things that point to it, and alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Yeah.
It's me. I want to. I'm sorry.
Wa alaikum salam. It's good hearing your voice. Go ahead, sister.
Thank you, brother. I want to talk about there is in Germany. Oh, okay. About ants. There is, of course, about the not science. It's miracle. How about ants? It was published, of course, last year. Here is a German study published on the Spiegel Online. Of course, Spiegel Online is a website belongs to Germany. Found that ants can distinguish vibrations caused by the advent of a predator of some danger. So they will prepare to attack, while vibrations caused by wind do not affect, and ants remain quiet. And of course, the researcher named Catherine Crocia, she said, because the ants recognize the source of the vibration, distinguish it, and it accelerate towards it. So here is the miracle. I mean, it's about the ants. Therefore, the ants at the time our Master Solomon left the vibration resulting from the arrival of the army as a result. So in the Surah, Al-Naml, the ants 18, it's a miracle. I don't know how to send. It's in Arabic, of course, because I speak Arabic already. I've lived in Arabian countries, of course. So and I don't know if I can share the website, and you can, of course, you can translate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and it's in Spiegel Online in Germany, and the researcher, of course, it's available.
Okay, is it written in German, or is it English?
No, it's in Germany. In Germany, of course, Spiegel Online. It's website in Germany, and the researchers in she's German, of course.
Okay.
I can read it if you would like.
Yeah.
So here, yeah, okay. A German study published on the Spiegel Online website found that ants can distinguish vibrations caused by the advent of a predator of some danger. So they will prepare to attack, while vibrations caused by wind do not affect, and the ants remain quiet. So she said, we were unintentionally touching tree branches and we were surprised by the ants who started attacking us, said researchers Catherine Garcia. She's German. She said because the ants recognize this source of vibration, distinguish distinguish it, and accelerate towards it. Therefore, the ants in the time of our master Solomon felt that the vibration resulting from the arrival of the army as a result of hitting the feet of the horse on the ground, and he wanted to escape. Almighty Allah said in, of course, in Al-Naml 18, even when they come to the valley of ants, uh, we know it. It's the ants 18. So in the female ant who was and sound frequencies, she said an ant. Ants build real housing and ventilation rooms, wards, and storage area enter your dwelling. So here about, of course, the verses in the Quran. So here
Yeah,
in
alhamdulillah.
Spiegel Online, of course, and it can be translated to Arabic, to English. I'm sorry.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so in specific, the Quran making reference to it's the female ant in particular that's using this communication and speaking to the other ants. There's no other way to look at it, and that's not just uh, you know I can't wrap my mind around any other thing that it could be that other than our Creator revealing this to us as a sign. Ronnie, I think I've mentioned to you before, and we've talked about it numerous times on the show, that the verses of the Quran are referred to ayah, and that means signs in the Arabic language. It literally means signs. Um, so we see signs within science, and Allah tells us once again that we'll show them our signs in the universe and within themselves until, that word until is very, very important. Yeah. Because it's indicating that there's going to be a period of time that these things are going to be revealed to mankind. And so we see modern technology actually confirming things that have been revealed in the Quran 1400 years ago. And so that word until being revealed there is very crucial and very vital for us to understand that our Creator is actually communicating with us through these signs, just as He's pointed out that He's going to do. And obviously, there's going to be some people that reject. They're going to say, it's just coincidence. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a big joke, whatever. Alhamdulillah, if that's the way people want to think. But if we believe that there's a Creator, we believe that He communicates with us, and we believe in His wisdom, then we have to deduce that He's found different means in which to attract certain people. Some people, because they think on a more scientific level, or atheists in particular, or they think they do anyways. They want to see proof, and so Allah has revealed things in a manner in which it's simple, but yet deep rooted and complex in regards to these things that are being confirmed in the Quran. Require modern technology in order to make these things clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, God's creations, when you look at them, you cannot. There's no doubt that everything that was created. These things just didn't pop up. And in my opinion, God is also the greatest mathematician ever. When you look at the way things are created, I saw this video about the spiral, and I don't know if you ever seen that, talking about the way things are done in spirals from a snail to a galaxy, and when you calculate the spirals, they come out all the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another thing
So
that
yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that when you look at things under microscopes and things like that, everything was created perfectly.
Yeah. Another thing Allah mentions in the Quran that the universe was one ball, and that he set it asunder, and that the universe is continuously expanding. So he mentions a couple of things in those verses, that everything was made from water, and modern technology confirms that, and also the fact that the Quran stating that the universe is continuously expanding. And modern science has been able to prove with the Hubble telescope that the universe is indeed continuously expanding. It's always growing. And this is something that was revealed once again. The our mind around it, so we don't get caught up in applying our logic to present time. We have to place ourselves in the 7th century and have this prophet of Allah that the universe is continuously expanding. For his companions, they might think, well, they can't even wrap their minds around that, right? But these are signs for us so that we can see that Allah is still speaking to us. Our Creator is still speaking to us, and He's speaking to us through the advancement and through modern technology, which is allowing these things that were revealed, in the 7th century to be confirmed. So, the Quran doesn't contradict, doesn't make any mistakes along these lines. Now, it'd be different if the Quran said something opposite, or made the claim that it was, if it made the wrong claim, but the fact of the matter is, it doesn't get any of these things wrong. It's accurate on every one of these points. So as much as people try to make an argument and try to prove the Quran wrong, modern science proves it to be accurate on all of these points, whether someone wants to recognize these things as a miracle or not. Fine, if you don't want to think it's a miracle, for some people, you don't have to think it's a miracle. But the fact of the matter is that the Quran is still consistent, whether you think it's a miracle or not, it's still consistent with what the science is actually saying. And so that's, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Brother Ibn Anwar, are you there? Assalamu alaikum, brother. Are you there? Brother Yahya. I don't know, Brother Yahya, if you can hear me, but I've been working on that, the audio that we talked about. Matter of fact, I was still working on it today. I was up late last night working on it. It's taken a bit of time because I want it to be perfect. And so I'm having to go over it again and again. I used to have a recording studio back in the day. It would have made it much easier, but at this point, I'm working on it. I'm almost done. Matter of fact, I should be able to get the file to you before the night's over, inshallah, God willing. So, Brother Yahya, I don't know if you're listening right now, but that's for you. And we'll get back to our project. Brother Ibn Anwar, are you there? Assalamu alaikum. I don't know what happened to Kareem today. He came on. I talked to him earlier, and then I don't know what happened to him. But alhamdulillah. Okay, brother Ibn Anwar, are you there? Okay, so it seems like there's not too many people on right now. Ronnie, you have any more questions? Anything you want to talk about? Inshallah, God willing.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Are you gonna come back on tonight or?
Probably so. I'm gonna go ahead and end it for right now. We've been on for about an hour and a half. Alhamdulillah, and we'll open it back up, or I'll leave it open.
All right. Hey, where you living? Where you at now? Are you in North Houston? Or are you in Houston? Or are you down here? Or?
I'm in Midtown. I live in Houston, Midtown.
Okay.
Looking out the window right now. The buildings are right there.
Really? What's it like living in Midtown?
Oh, it's my favorite, the best place I've ever lived. I've enjoyed living here better than any other place that I've ever lived in my life.
Yeah, and I want to ask you a question. Did Coach Burrs, did he pass away?
Yeah, he passed away.
Really? How long ago?
That was in 2011.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I heard that a long time ago, but I wasn't for sure.
Yeah, he had a heart attack.
Were y'all still close even after graduation and all that, or?
Well, yeah, for a while, you know, I mean, we were obviously he moved to Houston. I was still in Freeport, but yeah, I mean, we still communicated, and we just, you know, with distance, it's
Yeah.
you know, I didn't see him as often, obviously, and you know, then I had a family. He had a family. He got married, and all those things. So, but yeah, I mean, we're still close. I spoke at his funeral, and yeah, alhamdulillah, he had more influence on my life than probably anyone at this point, anyone
Yeah.
ever. He, you know, he's the one that introduced me to Islam to begin with, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I was talking about it at
Wow.
the beginning of the show. We were writing
Yeah, I remember you mentioned him. Yeah, you know what? I remember you mentioning that at the beginning of the show about him having an influence on your life. And I don't remember you mentioning as far as Islam
yeah,
goes, but
he joined the Nation of Islam, the Black Muslims, and while we were working on our second album, or right before we started working on our second album, and he one day going to the studio from Freeport, was coming to Houston, going to the studio, and his Quran was sitting between us. And when I picked it up, he said, "Brother, before you start reading it," he said, "read it from the standpoint that God is speaking directly to you. And when you read the Quran, that's how you read it, anyways. I mean, that's how it speaks to you, anyways." But alhamdulillah, I started reading it, and after just a few pages, I knew this is it. There's no question about it. It says, "This is the book of which there is no doubt for those who fear their Lord, who stay steadfast, fast in prayer, who give in charity." And alhamdulillah, it goes on from there. It's beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
And yeah, there's no question about it. I don't know. Have you ever read the Quran?
You know what? I have never read the Quran, but
Oh man, I got to get you one. I'll make a special trip down to Lake Jackson, only an hour away, and I'll take you some. I'll take you one, and I'll take you some other material that will be beneficial, inshallah. God willing.
yeah, I would like to read it. I would like to read it for my own personal, benefit.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get you one for sure.
All right, I appreciate it.
Inshallah. God willing.
All right, brother. Tag me if you go online. Go online again tonight.
Okay. All right. I will.
All right. Have a good night. If I don't see you.
All right, brother. All right. Now have a good
All right,
one.
you too.
Okay, so we're gonna call the show quits for today. But I do once again, I bear witness there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final servant, the seal of all prophets. I thank everyone who joined the panel, Ronnie Pena, Sister Stephanie, for bringing us the knowledge about the ants and for sharing the link. And I'll try to make sure that it's shared in association with this video on the YouTube channel, Consider This TV. And so I encourage anyone who's listening or watching or may see this in the future to hit subscribe, hit like, hit the bell so that you get indications for when we are going live. And we have some debates coming up, inshallah, God willing. We also have some Quran classes that Brother Kareem is going to be giving. And those are all in the works. So we have some big plans coming up. And so we certainly need your support. Most of all, we need your prayers. So please keep us in your dua. Pray for us that Allah accepts our efforts and our intentions. And I thank you so very kindly. And I leave you by saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Kenny Bomer Live. Consider This TV, where truth is made clear from falsehood. I'm Kenny Bomer. I'm the author of the book, Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda, and the forthcoming book, Everything is a Test. Truth is made clear from falsehood. Be on the lookout for those. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.